Of all the buzzwords around at the moment, I suggest the one that every CEO or business leader needs to focus on. It's visibility. Quite simply, you can have the best team, the best product, the best service, the most valuable brand, the best of everything. But if no one knows about it, then they won't buy. But making your values and valuables visible is a challenge in today's crowded digital marketplace. Storytelling is as old as the hills, but has stood the test of time and is now to the forefront in the digital world. And leading the way in storytelling is Nucco Brain. So let's meet its founder and MD, Stefano Marrone. Morning, Stefano.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, Malcolm.
It's lovely to meet you. Before we dive deep into your story, please tell us what Nucco Brain does and the type of client it does it for.
All right. So Nucco Brain, I call it a strategic content agency. So our job is really to work at the intersection between storytelling, that, as you say, it's old school, but it's never going away, and technology. So our job is really to tell the story of the clients that we have in an engaging way using the latest technology, whether that's AR, VR, interactive content, or video content. Our clients include Google, JP Morgan, European Space Agency, the De Beers Group, Deloitte, and many others. The idea is really that we focus and produce branded content for them, as well as learning and development and interactive content. So the idea is that we tell stories both for internal comms and the external part of communication.
I love the storytelling because I'm totally into it. And I also love the creative name of Nucco Brain. But what sparked in your own brain the idea for the business? What was that eureka moment?
That's an interesting question because, I felt that there are two things about it. One is that I can never say no, in the sense that I'm genuinely quite helpful and want to help the clients and the people I work with. So even when I was a freelancer, it was always, I'm too busy at the moment, I cannot help you, but I can find somebody that can help you, and you end up managing them. So that kind of happened organically, especially when I was working at Publicis in Milan and the Leo Burnett branch of it. But then what happened specifically was that when I was in London, I was working for a startup, e-learning startup, leading around 12 people from a design and creative point of view. And we finished the project. We saved a lot of money to the investor because we optimized the content. And what was happening is that I just felt this looks a lot like a company, and I can probably do the same level of organization and return of investment and savings for other people. So it kind of happened organically in a way where, I got that confirmation from my past roles that this could be a thing.
Excellent, yeah. Now, was it hard to bring your idea to reality, for instance, to capture investors' imagination, and how did you achieve it?
That's, I think that, like everything, you can tell a success story and make it look like you never did one misstep, but I'm not going to do that. So the very first presentation I did on Nucco Brain was an absolute disaster. So I did it at Goldsmiths, University of London, where I was where I just finished studying. And, the presentation itself didn't go well because while I saw the need, the need for explaining complex proposition with storytelling, there were many challenges to the model from the people in the audience. So I think that with investors, but also with customers, what they need to see is results, and they need to see results before they buy in. So that's why after that, I just kept it as lean as possible, and I rolled up my sleeves and I thought, okay, I need to show results. And I waited until the end of the second year to really start engaging investors. And it, I was lucky enough to have several requests, but the one that we ended up with, Unit 9, that now we're part of as a group, were captivated, of course, by the people in the business, but also by the results that we brought. So I think that the important thing is capturing imagination is essential, but you also have to have something to show for it.
Yeah, let's stay with results. You delivered results for some big name brands, as you said beforehand. But what was the moment or the sale that gave you the excitement that said, yes, we're now rolling?
I think that I made a very cautious plan. When I started Nucco Brain, I made a classic 3 years plan. And if I take a look at it now, it's completely laughable. But the initial idea was, a certain income from the first year, around 3 employees, good salaries for everyone. And it was like kind of a humble beginning approach. But then at a certain point, I realized that we were doing around 4 times the turnover that I predicted, and that we had around 8 people by the end of year one. And the spark was when I got our first campaign was an above the line, so TV broadcast campaign for the launch of the 4G plan for Leica Mobile in the US. And I'll be forever grateful to the team of Leica Mobile for believing in me in that moment. But that's really what got us the opportunity to really show what we could do. And I think that it's really a line in the sand, in terms of where the business could have gone, and that opportunity was a big thing for us. And in that sense, I have immense gratitude for any of the clients that believed in us in our early days. And I think that there is a very important space, when you mentioned investors before, for this people that see potential and believe in it and give it a try,
Yeah, I applaud you there, because you'll never forget those people, and far too many entrepreneurs seem to forget the ones that gave them that kickstart. So congratulations.
There is the guy that gave me my first creative gig ever when I was 19, and I still buy him coffee every time I'm in Milan, because without him, I wouldn't be here talking to you.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Your product, or what you offer, seems to me to depend a lot on the evolution of tech, especially in AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality. And these themselves are two areas of fast-moving change. So how does Nucco Brain keep abreast with and implement these changes?
I think that the important thing there is to really be constantly in touch with tech providers, meaning we, of course, rely on softwares and materials that our tech providers create, anything like VR headsets or the softwares. But that's sort of the easy part, because they're very eager, to let you discover. So if you remind yourself to be in touch with them, that's always good. And in that sense, we managed to become early partners whenever there is an innovation with things like Snapchat, Facebook. Recently, we got a TikTok augmented reality developer kit, and that early tech is quite important to have access to. But the important thing for us was to have 1 or 2 every year pilot projects. These are the projects where you will lose money, that they're not gonna sort of pay the bills, but it's where you learn, and you might as well have a little bit of fun. So what we did some years ago was that we decided to make a film that actually won quite a lot of awards, that merged 2D and 3D animation. But recently we got together with a music band, and we created a music video that was also an interactive game done with Unity that was translated into VR experience. So I think that the important thing really is to see these projects not as a loss, but as a learning curve, and try to get all your team behind it as much as possible. So that approach, I think, needs to be in the mind of anybody that wants to constantly innovate and be relevant. Otherwise, you will soon be the flavor of the week.
Yeah,
forgotten.
Yeah. Easily forgotten. Let's look at the purpose of your business. Put aside making money. What do you see as the true purpose, or the older word mission, of Nucco Brain? How do you know when you're achieving your purpose?
That's a very good question. I like to put money aside bit. So I'm going to answer that, when we meet the KPI that the client has set, and, that might be return of investment, but sometimes it's also all sorts of different KPIs, ways of judging whether we've done a good work. I think that too many creative agencies are too focused on winning awards. If we win an award as a result of a job well done, that's great. But between winning an award and hitting the KPI for the client, I will always choose the latter. And the other part that is very important for me is to manage to make a topic that deserves attention and consideration as engaging as the best entertainment that is out there. The way that I see it when it comes to content production, you want to be as close as possible to something that somebody has seen on Netflix, and really, we're fighting for people attention. So the purpose is really to have that worth of consideration content that both informs and entertains people.
Yeah, I very much, again, applaud you for your focus upon the customer. And again, far too many people forget about the customer. Marketing is fast changing from being an art into a science where ROI, return on investment, can be measured. So how do you go about doing that for clients? After all, it's what the keepers of the purse in big companies will judge you on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one in the sense that putting a value on creative output has always been, the sticky the sticky point. But what I think it's important for us is to really work to the client to put in place metrics and system to check those metrics. So, for example, when we do external campaigns that might last 6, 8, 12 months, what we try to do is check and reevaluate what works and what doesn't. And I think that the important thing is really to work together with whoever is with the business. So, my client might be a specific department of a bigger business, and work with them to make a business case to the financial controller, the CFO, or whatever it might be. I think that sometimes creatives forget that they're doing something for a business reason and what the ultimate purpose of that content is, and making pretty thing for pretty thing's sake is never good. But if you really collaborate and try to understand what is that your client is trying to achieve, then working with them to make a strategic case, upstairs, so to speak, with the people with the purse, as you mentioned, them, is the most important stuff. And embedding some level of tracking is essential. That for us, that's very bespoke. I cannot tell you, number of views rather than number of clicks, but finding those metrics and agreeing them with the client is the best and most important thing.
I'm totally with you there, and that will satisfy a lot of the procurement people. Okay, let's imagine I'm a potential client and I say, this sounds like what I need. Take me through your approach to such a new client and the workflow towards results.
All right. So this is a big question because we do quite a lot of different types of content, right? But I'm going to take an interactive project as an example, okay? And I think that the fundamental important part is not so much on the technology, because that is something that many people can do, not that many can do very well, but the important thing instead is the briefing. So normally the tricky part with clients is that they might have an idea about what they want. Sometimes that idea is pretty precise in terms of outcomes, but what they actually want is something that we always like to guide and challenge. So we have a system or an approach that is called the creative briefing approach, where rather than wait for a client to write a really long and detailed RFP that might be full of assumptions, we sit with them, we let them talk freely, sometimes even rant about what their challenges are for half a day, together with us, with all the team, including the creatives, the tech, and so on. And that creative briefing is really what we give back to them and say, is this what you wanted? So it's writing the brief and the needs together with the client. And after that, what we have is called a discovery phase, in which we try to really think like future-proof the idea. So, if this is a project that needs to last for 5 years, what technologies are still going to be there, and try to basically risk assess everything that can change, from that moment on. So these two things, the creative briefing and the discovery phase, are really what changes the approach to de-risk it in a way, but also make sure that it's the KPIs. And then after that, it's kind of classic creation of content. We do user experience design, making sure that it works for the different people that are going to use it. We do UI design, so user interface. And then after that, there is all the content creation and prototype. And once we have a prototype, what we do is that we really think and test it. We do what is called quality assurance in different type of devices. But the important thing is then to think about the distribution. So we've done this beautiful thing for you. How and where are we going to put it? And so many times, I think that marketers or creatives just walk out on the distribution aspect. It's like, I don't care about it. But for us, making a beautiful thing is like having a beautiful island in the Pacific Ocean and no flight that connects to it. Our job is to try to get it as close as possible to the mainland. And at the end, as we were saying before, is like checking the results. And if there is any tweak to do on a quarterly basis to make it better and better, not abandon it because you finished the project. I think that it's important to keep holding the hand of your client and being the trusted partner rather than, okay, next thing, next cool thing to do.
Yeah. I like that. And procurement people would like that as well. That's whole life support, isn't it, in a way? Now, what I've been gaining from our conversation with you is that you nicely balance the two things of what you do, but also who you are. Where do you see Nucco Brain in 5 years' time? Your vision for the business?
That's a fantastically good question. I think that COVID has thrown a little bit of a curveball to everyone in the globe. So we're quite lucky in this situation that I've seen a lot of agencies just like stop going from 100 to 0. We haven't stopped at all, and if anything, we're quite busy. So we're blessed, and our vision has worked. But I think that two things are in place. One is geographical expansion. We're planning on opening a New York City office. It would have been in a couple of months. Given COVID, maybe it's going to take us 6 to 8 months. But there's definitely something like new European offices, especially with Brexit happening. And that's from a kind of geographical point of view. But also there are new verticals in the sense that at the moment we are quite good with the strategy and the creation of the content, but we want to go one layer up and expand our services, adding SEO strategy, but also at the end, more distribution options and platform for our clients. So serve them in a more complete, and horizontal way. So far it's been nonstop growth from day one. In 6 years, we went from me in a shared office to, offices in Poland, London, and the US, and part of a group that is more than 300 people. So it's nice to be part of a machine that keeps growing.
Yeah, and I can truly see why it's growing, because very dynamic. So it's 3 wishes time. If I were to give you 3 wishes for the future of content, what would they be?
That's a fantastically cool question. Thanks for asking. I have 3 that are like might seem a little bit disjointed, but they all get together towards the future of content. First of all, I wish for brands, and any type of brand, to really acknowledge that they are becoming publishers. I think that what a lot of brands are not understanding is that every time you put content out there, that content has to be useful. So you have to think and act as a publisher. They might learn some tricks from you, actually, Malcolm. And the other one is VR adoption. I think that virtual reality is really going to change a lot of things. And even now, again, with the COVID world where we have to do things on a distance, I really wish that more people that think or that are resisting even just trying it would jump on and put an headset on and see how it is, because we see the results. People that maybe have never given the opportunity to do that, and then they put on the headset, the reactions are incredible, and you can do incredible things. And the last one is that marketers and executives really understand that there is power in animation and stylization, and don't think about that as a cartoon or something for children, because what is happening is that motion and things moving is really going everywhere, from the screen of our mobiles to video content. And so if we can take the stigma out of the word animation to make people really consider it as a powerful tool, that I think will open the doors to a number of incredible possibilities for multi-channel content translation.
Stefano from Nucco Brain, I have thoroughly enjoyed meeting you, and I'm very excited for the future of not just for Nucco Brain, but for everything that you're doing and storytelling. Thank you very much indeed for the interview.
Thank you so much for having me, Malcolm. It was a real pleasure.